In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to set up and install Comodo Internet Security. And for this, we're going to have to go to Comodo online and then download Comodo Internet Security. And when it's finished, we can go ahead and run it. So we're just going to open the containing folder here and run that as an administrator. There we go. It'll just take a minute to extract it. Now there are substantial differences between Comodo Internet Security and Windows Firewall, and both operate very much the same. They both do a very good job of protecting your computer, but I like Comodo Internet Security primarily because it gives you a multitude of additional features. And one of the things I like about Comodo Internet Security Premium is it provides you with something called the Host Intrusion Prevention System, which is just another method of securing program applications from running. It also gives you an antivirus, and then it gives you a very highly configurable firewall. Now, for basic users, the settings of Comodo Internet Security Premium could be a little bit overwhelming. But what we're going to do today is I'm going to take you through the installation of the firewall, and I'm going to give you a bit of a guide on how to control and configure the firewall settings. Here we go, and it's complete, so we're going to close that now. There we go, and it also provides you with a widget at the top. So we're just going to bring up the main window now. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to click the Fix It, because it needs to scan as well as download the latest features and functions. And when this pops up, we're going to set this at home. I'm at home. There we go. And now we're just going to wait for it to finish installing the updates. So now that our updates and our initial scan is complete, we've got this screen here, and we can just click the button to the advanced view. And this shows us our antivirus, our host intrusion prevention system, and our firewall. So we're going to start by going to the firewall. And we're going to turn on create rules for safe applications. We're going to set our alert frequency to low. We're going to filter IPv6 traffic, block fragmented IP traffic, do protocol analysis, and enable anti-ARP spoofing. And we're going to go on to custom rules here. And the application rules simply give us a method of enabling outgoing or incoming communication for any application or service on our computer. And for our purposes, what we want to do is we want to set up our Windows Updater applications for outgoing only, and our Windows System applications for outgoing only. There we go. So then we're going to bring this little arrow up, and we're going to add a few more to this list. Now, under the Browse function, we have file groups that are already preset by Comodo Firewall. We can set up any particular executable file or any running process. So we're going to start with our running processes. We're going to do the Windows operating system here, and we're going to set a rule set of blocked application and click OK. There we go. So we're just going to continue to do this for a bunch of our running processes here. SMSS.exe, that can be a blocked application. We can do another running process here for CSRSS, and we'll set our rule set to that and block that application as well. Go back to the running processes and do DWM-EXE and block that application as well. Running processes, and we'll do the Windows Initiate EXE. It can be a blocked application as well. Running processes, Services EXE. We can block that application as well. Running processes. We can do the search indexer, block application, running process, Go down the list a little bit more to task host exe, and we can block that one as well. We're going to go over here to running processes, and we're going to check the lsas exe and block that as well. Do more running processes. The next one we'll do is the lsm exe. Block that application as well. We're going to go to running processes here and go down the list a little bit further and choose winlogon.exe. We can block that one as well. Running processes and go down the list here. Choose Windows Explorer exe, and we can block that one as well. There we go. Alright, so now we're going to add some files, and one of the first ones we're going to start with is our web browser. So we're going to go to the Program Files x86 folder, and we're going to choose Internet Explorer, iExplorer exe, and we're going to set a rule set as a web browser. And then we're going to go back and we're going to select Mozilla Firefox. It's worth noting that you can do this with any executable. If you're using Chrome, you can always go find the Chrome folder and add Chrome exe as a web browser as well. If you're using Firefox, it's important to note that there is another executable file that you should add to your firewall, and that is the plugin container. And the plugin container should be outgoing. There we go. So now we're going to go to our program files folder. I'm using a 32-bit version of the Windows operating system. So I have a program files folder and a program files x86 folder. And we're going to go to Internet Explorer here. And we're going to select iExplorer here because there are two different paths to Internet Explorer. We're going to set that as a rule set as well. There we are. And we can set up any file or folder that we want to access the internet this way. So we can select CCleaner, for example, and select that as outgoing only. And back to our program files folder here, and just make sure that we've got all of our software that we want to add. Now, if you choose not to add the file exes to this list, you can always do so. It will prompt you as soon as it goes to connect to the internet. You don't have to predefine these, but I just find that it saves you time later on. There are some that you should predefine. For example, I'm going to the Windows folder now, and System32 folder. And then we're going to scroll down till we find the SVC host file. Now, the SVC host file is a very important one to do, and I'm going to show you how you can lock it down a little bit tighter security on this. There we go, SVC host. Now, the SVC host is responsible for providing you with a local area network connection. It provides you with your local IP address, whatever the router will assign you. It also provides you with a method for sending out your DNS requests. And so for that purpose, we actually you can set it as a predefined rule set for outgoing only, but it'll allow all traffic outgoing, and we may not necessarily want that. So we can actually use a custom rule set for this particular executable file, and I'm going to show you some of the more popular choices on how to configure this. So we're going to allow UDP communication in and out from a single address of 0000 to a destination address, a single address, of 255.255.255.255. And that's all the bits turned on. So then we're going to do a single port for the source port, port 68, and a destination port, a single port of 67. And what this will do is this will allow your network adapter to request an IP address from your router. And we're going to allow UDP in or out on a subnet mask this time for the source address, and this will be the local area network IP address. And in my particular instance, it's going to be .68. Now, there is a method for finding your local IP address, and I will show you that in just 1 minute here. I'm going to set my subnet mask address, which is 255.255.255.0. And the destination address will be your gateway address. So for my particular router, my gateway address is 192.168.1.254, and I'll show you how to find these numbers here in just a minute. And we're going to do the source port, and again, this is port 68 and destination port 67. There we go. Now, if you need to find these addresses on your router because you're not using a similar router as mine, you can always go to your start menu here, type in the CMD button, bring up your console, and then type in ipconfig / all and press enter. And this always gives you the ID address of your IPv4 local area network connection, your subnet mask, and also your default gateway and DNS server addresses. So the next thing that we're going to do here is we need to allow our DNS information outbound only. And this is very important. When you're setting your DNS to send out DNS addressing, you only ever want it to go outbound. Okay, so we're going to set the subnet mask here, and it's going to be 192.168.168, and this is your local area network address. Put in your subnet mask, go to your destination address, a single address, and this is going to be your DNS address numbers, whatever DNS address numbers you choose to use. I use the Comodo DNS address numbers because it's a secure server. There we go. And this will be destination port, a single port, port number 53. And there we go. Now we need to do another one for our second DNS address. So we're just going to quickly configure 168.168, and our subnet mask address, and then our secondary DNS address number, which is 156.154.71.22. And then we're going to get a single port address of 53. Now, it's also important to note that the SVC host is responsible for communicating with Microsoft for Windows updates. Now, to allow Windows updates to proceed through the DNS, through the SVC host exe, we have to add another rule. And for that, we're going to select TCP communication, outbound, and our source address, which is the same as all the others, 192.168.1.68 in my case. And then we'll set our subnet mask. And the destination address with Microsoft Windows is constantly changing, and they don't even post it online because of denial of service attacks. So you'll leave this as any address, and you can select a destination port, single port, port 80. And again, we have to do one more address, allow TCP out, subnet mask of 192.168.1.68, subnet address, any destination port, a single port, port 443. There you go. Now, there are different variations. Some people do choose to just leave this as outbound traffic. In my particular instance, I'm clamping down the security on my computer. You don't have to set it up this way. You could quite simply set it up to outbound only. go. So we're going to block and log all TCP/IP communication, all ICMP communication, and also any IP communication. And by logging it, we can tell if there's any information that is being blocked that we may want to add later on. There we go. And this is a good configuration for allowing all your traffic outbound. There we go. So our custom rule has been set for our SVC host, and that should help to secure our system a little bit better. Now we can always go to global rule sets, and there are certain protocols and port addresses that we want to add here because we're not going to be using these addresses, these ports. So we can set a block for TCP or UDP communication on destination port range of 21 through 24. Now I'm going to be a little extreme here, and I'm going to be blocking ports that I will probably never be using. You don't have to add these port addresses, and in fact, if you go and check it out online, you can find out which each of these port addresses does. I'm adding these ports because I know them to be particularly vulnerable to attackers. So that's port 21 through 24, our port range, and a port of 69. And I have another port range here of 134 to 142. There we go. And I've also got another port to add here. There's actually quite a few ports that are commonly attacked. Port 500, block, destination port. This will be a port range actually of 666 to 669. And again, these are all common ports that are attacked by attackers trying to get into your computer system. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1701. This particular port address is for virtual private networking. And there's another one here for virtual private networking. Pretty common to see attackers try to use virtual private network connection, or to establish a virtual private network connection with your PC. The universal plug-and-play address of port 1900, this is another very big accessible port that is commonly attacked on your computer. Even though the service may not be in operation, the port address can still be accessed, and that's why I'm blocking it here. Another common port that's misused is port 4500. Add block destination. And we have a couple more to add here. Single port. Another common port for attackers is 6969. And another port for proxying your connection. Now it's important to note that port 8080 is used for proxying your connection outbound, so if you plan to use a proxy, you will not want to add this port. But for my purposes, I am adding this port because I'm not planning on using a proxy connection. And I have another one here, another common port that's attacked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. Now we can also add some of these other IP protocols that we don't need. For example, ICMP version 6. Block ICMP or IP, excuse me. RSVP. And we can block some more of these protocol addresses, GRE for example. And block GGP. And block PUP and block raw IP and block IGMP. That's the Internet Gateway Monitoring Protocol, by the way. And ICMP version 4. In my particular instance, I know that it allows the fragmented and the time exceeded here, but pinging my computer system is something I don't want any attacker to do. I can come back and remove this if I need to test my connection by sending out pings. We're going to move on to the network zones now, and there are some block zones that you may want to add to your list of addresses right away. For example, a single address for universal plug and play, which is 239.255.255.250. This is a very common IP address that can be misused with attackers trying to penetrate your local area network. It's for unicast addressing and allows people universal plug and play addresses on your network. There's also an address range here that we may want to add as well, which is 224 with 1 and 224 to 255. Now 255 is the broadcasting address for any IP address. For example, the broadcasting address for your router would be, or on my particular router would be 192.168.1.255, right? So for this unicast addressing that I won't be utilizing, this is another address range of IP addresses that a lot of attackers will choose to target. So blocking all addresses between 001 and the broadcast address. And then there's one more address range that I'm going to add here, which is another very common address range I see attacked a lot, which is 10 to 255. There we go. So now we have all those addresses added to our block zone. So none of these IP addresses will be able to communicate with my computer because the firewall will immediately stop the communication. And then there's port sets you can always set up for specific ports that you want to add. I'm not going to be adding any there. The website filtering allows you to block and allow certain websites. You can also add exclusions. Now we're going to go up to our antivirus, and we're going to set the scan computer at after the computer starts. Scan the computer memory. It does not take a lot of resources to scan the computer memory during startup, and it is highly recommended. We can also choose to set the heuristic scanning level. I'm going to set mine up a little bit higher to medium. And that will take a little bit more system processes to run, but I also find that it finds any potential threats to the computer much quicker. You can set up scans, dates, times, exclusions, any particular file paths that you want excluded from your antivirus. You can also exclude individual executable files here or applications here. The Defense Plus, the host intrusion prevention system, is a very handy system to set up as well. This is a method of antivirus, but it also helps to protect any system processes on your computer, any critical operating system activities. So very, very useful. And I like to enable HIPS and then set it to training mode so that it can create rules for the applications. And that will be very handy, and as you can see here, it's already beginning to work by identifying processes that are running on the computer. As it's in training mode, it always sets them to custom rules, but in order to change that, it's pretty simple. You can just double click on it and you can select a rule set, and as you can see, this is my Blueberry software that I'm using for recording, and so it's an allowed application. So you can just click allowed application. Anything that maintains this path here, Windows System 32 folder, you want to set as a rule set and click on Windows System Application. So anything that you find with Windows System 32 can be set to a Windows System application. It's just a preset that comes with Comodo that will automatically allow the proper processes. Under help pane, for example, Windows System application. And as long as it's under training set, it won't be blocking these applications. It will simply be adding them to this list, which is a good idea for a couple of days, so that the entire list begins to develop, and then you can come back and you can define these applications, so that later on when you set it to a different mode, whether it be paranoid mode, safe mode, clean mode, or training mode, it'll start to pop up at you, and it creates these pop-up alerts to let you know what's trying to run on your computer, and it gives you just greater control over any system or process that's being activated on your computer, and it's very, very handy method of protection for your applications. You can also predefine new rule sets here, adding or removing or changing your rule sets. Now, under the protected objects, you have protected files, blocked files, registry keys, COM interfaces, and protected data folders. These provide you with a method of securing important information. There are certain startup things or file information on your computer that you want to protect, and don't want it to be modified by an attacker. So for my purposes, I'm going to add a file to the protected files folder, and it should be under the drivers folder under System 32, and then click on the etc folder and click on the hosts file, and that will help protect your Windows host file. Very important. Any particular software that you want to protect from modification by any other application or by other people can be added to protected data folders. For example, I can add a folder here. For example, my local disk drive. Oh, it's currently protected by BitLocker. Maybe I should choose a different folder. I can save my downloads folder. Protected data folders cannot be modified or changed by any application or system. You can simply view the information that's in it. It cannot be edited or changed in any shape, way, or form. So you can do that for any particular folder or drive even that you want to add protection. Mine simply popped up because I'm using BitLocker encryption at this point in time to protect that drive, as you can see there. If I were to unlock that drive by typing in my password, it would then allow me to use that drive in the protected data folders. That's maybe a little extreme though, considering it's encrypted now. There's also HIPS groups. You can actually define groups of classes or registry keys or file information that you don't want to add, and if you do that, actually you can set it up so that it comes up under your, where is it? Comes up here. When you bring this up, you can set it to any one of these here, or set a custom rule set and copy from any one of these by creating your own under the host intrusion prevention system groups. Very handy, versatile application. The file ratings actually go through and check whether or not the files are trusted installers or trusted vendors, for example, and you can even add more trusted vendors to the list here. It gives you a list of file groups, classifications of specific file types. You can also add more types of executables to this list if you find more that you'd like to add. There are other important files and folders that you can add here if you so desire additional security. The file list gives you an idea of what company has produced these specific executables or DLL files and whether or not they're to be trusted. You can also define more here by adding file detail information, adding specific files, folders, or current running processes. You can also look them up through this this tab as well. Very, very versatile for additional security purposes. You can also designate trusted vendors, and Comodo's already selected a huge list of vendors for software and applications and drivers here. and you can go through and you can modify those too. You can add more or remove any. And that's just a quick rundown on Comodo Security, Internet Security. So we're just going to click the OK button at this point in time. And there we go. And now it's also worth noting here that the antivirus can be under stateful, and that's not a problem, but on access is a better setting. That means that any executable file that goes to be used at any point in time on your computer, whether it's being called for by Windows or whether you're the one clicking on the icon, will be immediately scanned. And you can also have this scan objects, draw files here, so you can drag files over and drop it on this little box here, and it'll scan the file for you and find out whether or not the file is a potential threat. It's also worth noting that you can set up network intrusions over on this side and monitor any network intrusion, and even legitimate processes. For example, you may have seen this pop up a little while ago. Come up and notifies you of the source port and source IP and where it's going and what the destination port is. Anything that's on port 53 is a DNS request. It's simply looking for a host name address. And that concludes that part of our video. There's only one other thing that you can do here under general settings, and that's the user interface. You can actually add your desktop widget if you want it, or play alert sounds when something pops up. You can even enable password protection so that your firewall cannot be modified unless you choose to do so. You can check for program updates every so many days, or automatically download programs, or check for database updates every so often. You can even set up not to check for updates unless you're using specific connections or if you're running on a battery. Logging gives you the ability to write to Windows event logs, which is a good idea. Log files can reach up to very large amounts. So in this particular program, they've set it to 20 megabytes for the log files. It's also set to automatically delete the previous log file and create a new one. I like to log my entries, so I'll add my log files to my documents folder, and that way when my log file reaches 20 megabytes, it will automatically be moved to a document folder and a new one will be created. There we go. So when you see this pop-up come up for any application that's connecting to the internet, it's always a good idea not to just click the allow button, to go to treat as and decide whether it's a web browser, an email client. Most of us won't be using FTP clients, but allowing the application allows incoming and outgoing traffic, and you may not necessarily want that for most applications. Most applications only require outgoing only. There we go. So keep that in mind. You don't want inbound traffic. Outbound traffic is good. It's what the applications require in order to connect to the internet. Inbound communication is often misused by attackers. In order to achieve connection with your computer, they need to acquire inbound traffic with your computer. So make sure that you set your applications to outbound only, and that will also help prevent any attacks. And this concludes my Comodo Internet Security Premium video. If you have any questions or comments, or you'd like to see more videos, please feel free to comment in the comments section below, or visit us at www.clearconfig.net. Thanks for watching.